There are now some very important signals that Tesla's AI supercomputer efforts are going to be much bigger than we are all being led to believe. We'll watch a video of Elon Musk's interview by Lex Fridman this weekend, where Elon talks about the massive data that'll be coming when a Tesla bot is walking around in reality. As an example, he explained what happens when a bot is pouring a glass of water. Second, Elon just did a walkthrough of the supercomputer cluster in Giga Texas, calling it the Cortex. It's about 100,000 H100s and H200s with massive storage for video training of both full self-driving and Optimus. And third, Tesla has confirmed its plans to build a $500 million Dojo supercomputer hub in Buffalo, New York. Jeff Lutz is ex-CVP of Supply Chain and Chief Quality Officer, and now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Welcome, Jeff.
Oh, hey, Robert. Great to be with you. This is all about scale, and I love it.
Yeah, people are always not understanding why Tesla's building so much supercompute as possible. Elon finally explains, how much the bot's going to bring in, how much the cars are bringing in, and why it's important. So he was interviewed this weekend by Lex Fridman, and he said Optimus is going to be the biggest source of data because it scales to the scale of reality. It's actually humbling to see how little data humans have been able to accumulate. I guess he's talking about, what we're able to, all the videos we got. A lot of spam on that. So let's watch what he's talking about here.
I think with Tesla and the real-time video coming from the several million cars, ultimately tens of millions of cars, with Optimus, there might be hundreds of millions of Optimus robots, maybe billions, learning a tremendous amount from the real world. That's the biggest source of data. I think ultimately is sort of Optimus Optimus is going to be the biggest source of data.
Because
reality scales. Reality scales to the scale of reality. It's actually humbling to see how little data humans have actually been able to accumulate. Really, if you say how many trillions of usable tokens have humans generated, where on a non-duplicative, like discounting spam and repetitive stuff, it's not a huge number. You run out pretty quickly.
And Optimus can go. So Tesla cars unfortunately have to stay on the road. Optimus robot can go anywhere. There's more reality off the road and go off road.
I mean, like the Optimus robot can pick up the cup and see, did it pick up the cup in the right way? Did it, say pour water in the cup? Did the water go in the cup or not go in the cup? Did it spill water or not?
Yeah.
Simple stuff like that. I mean, but it can do that at scale times a billion, so generate useful data from reality. So cause and effect stuff.
What do you think it takes to get to mass production of humanoid?
Okay, before we get there, what do you think about what he said about this is tremendous amount of video, audio, touch sensors. It's all going to be capturing and everything when the robot pours water. No one has that video of somebody looking inside. And that's important. What's your thoughts on what he said?
Yeah, I think people, I think the eyes are starting to open of why are Elon Musk companies buying so much compute? Why are they in the top, anywhere 3 or 5 in terms of purchases of compute? And you can see what's happening with vehicles, where today it's millions of vehicles on the road collecting data. And Elon said it'll be tens of millions of vehicles or more collecting data, and then the bot will scale from that many times over, because it's basically everything it counters and doing any kind of task. There'll be data that's taken from that, and you're just kind of drawing the contrast of kind of how much little data that we've actually acquired as humans. So Tesla's on the forefront. If you just look at the AI movement, it's going to happen in various stages. Right now, we're at this stage of the picks and shovels and gathering the ability to actually gather that data and do something meaningful with it. We're at the very, very, very early stages of that. But once it moves out into the real world, and you have what are called these edge devices, or devices that are doing, inference at the edge of, reality and where humanity is, be it these bots, be it the vehicles, Tesla is going to be in a leadership position from a volume perspective. The volume from bots that Elon is predicting is actually, many times over what the smartphone world is today. And that's really one of the higher highest volume kind of complex devices that are shipped today. There's about 1.2 billion of those that ship every year, and there's about 8 to 9 billion of them in service or in existence. And he believes the bot will basically approach that, and maybe at some point and some rate could exceed it, given its usefulness. So this is going to be a very, 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 remember, smartphones, a couple $100. These things are, in the $15,000 to $20,000 range or more. And it's going to come from many manufacturers, not just Tesla only. Everybody should, be clear on that. But I think Tesla is going to have a leadership position. And this whole concept of what they're doing with data is everything's a scale play. And if you look at everything that Elon has gotten himself into, whether it's the automotive EV industry, and then everything inside of that, whether it's supercharging, whether it's the battery side of it and the supply chain side of it, everything that he's doing, he's building a scale play for. So you get the product right, you get the unit economics right, and then you take it to scale, and then you have a dominant position in that industry, and you can really control where it goes. Same thing he's doing with space. Now this is all translating over to what he's doing with AI and his AI companies, XAI and Tesla. And, you can see where this is going, where most of this is now going to move out of that early picks and shovel phase, early data phase, to these devices moving throughout the world. And Tesla is going to have tens of millions on the automobile side, so these robots on wheels, and then many hundreds of millions on the bot side. And they're going to be a dominant position in AI.
So this is a very, very big topic, and one that I've been trying to scratch and understand, and now it's all coming together a little bit better, right? Which is, how important is data, and do you believe it when they say Tesla has the most amount of real world data, both in the cars and now the bots? So I think all these bot companies, they will succeed. I know you and I have a little different opinion about that. Many of them will fail. I'm not saying that they'll all succeed, but many of them will succeed. But they probably will, and they can be trained. That's the interesting thing. They can be trained to do autonomous work, but they can only be trained for kind of certain tasks, like to pick and place, or there's going to be lots of tasks that they can do. But what Tesla is able to do is, with all this data, it's going to be the best generalized humanoid bot that's going to understand the world the best, right? Like if it can know, the different cups and be able to look inside and knowing if it can pour that one great example, and then times a billion, times a trillion of all these experiences the bot can do. This bot, with that data, be able to learn and understand the world much faster, better than anybody else. Other bots, they can do tasks, they can be taught one to two things, but to really, truly tell to do something without you giving all the step by step and it doing one thing. This is the one that can probably end up doing it.
Yeah, that adaptive learning curve is one of the big keys to manufacturing. We really haven't seen anything yet in terms of these bots. I know we see the 20-second clips of it picking up a box and moving it from one place to the other, but we don't know what programming went on, prior to that. We don't know exactly what, I'm talking about all the other bot companies. But if Tesla can really generalize this, where it can actually move and adapt to its world, that's what scale is all about. When we're building a new product in supply chain, what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand what is the quality output from a particular operation or station, and what's the total process time, and what's the rate of production that one thing can do at one point in time. And it starts at 0 and 0. It starts at the worst quality usually, and it starts at the slowest time. And that time from going from where you start to where you get to is really important in scale. And we haven't seen any of these bots yet do anything at rated speed, or at kind of its final terminal speed and its final terminal quality. And that ramp curve, I believe Tesla is going to be able to get up that ramp curve with their bot faster than everyone else. One, from a design perspective, and two, they're experts at this from how they bring up the thousands of stations in the factories when they're building a new product.
Okay, let's listen into the interview some more.
Robots like that.
It's the same as cars, really. I mean, global capacity for vehicles is about 100 million a year. And it could be higher. It's just that the demand is on the order of 100 million a year. And then there's roughly 2 billion vehicles that are in use in some way. So, which makes sense. Like the life of a vehicle is about 20 years. So at steady state, you can have 100 million vehicles produced a year with a 2 billion vehicle fleet, roughly. Now for humanoid robots, the utility is much greater. So my guess is humanoid robots are more like at a billion plus per year.
But, until you came along and started building Optimus, it was thought to be an extremely difficult problem. I mean, it still is an extremely difficult problem.
So it's no walk in the park. I mean, Optimus currently would struggle to walk in the park. I mean, it can walk in a park. Park is not too difficult, but it will be able to walk over a wide range of terrain.
Yeah, and pick up objects.
Yeah. It can already do that.
But like all kinds of objects.
Yeah.
All foreign objects. I mean, pouring water in a cup is not trivial. Because then if you don't know anything about the container, it could be all kinds of containers.
Yeah, there's going to be an immense amount of engineering just going into the hand.
Yeah.
The hand might be close to half of all the engineering in Optimus. From an electromechanical standpoint, the hand is probably roughly half of the engineering.
Let me pause it there. So first he talked about the volume, right? 1 billion bots. Tesla could make 100 million, just like cars. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a number of entrants. I think there's going to be, it's not going to be all Tesla, but I believe that they will get there first or be one of the first. And I believe they will get the scale faster than anyone else. So these numbers are meaningful. Again, I go back to the smartphone industry, 1.2 billion units a year.
Right.
But these things are 25 to 50 times, the bots are 25 to 50 times more in value, at least initial purchase price, not including all the services and leases that occur after that. So this is a gigantic industry. The smartphone industry is a gigantic industry, and these things are going to sell for 25 to 50 times more that. And it's a huge industry.
Okay. So he's basically saying this is going to be a massive industry. We're going to get a big piece of it. He talks about the hands being 50% of the engineering. That was fantastic. He finally put a little bit of context around it and why they're spending so much time. The other figure just dropped their bot, and you can see that there's a gap between the wrists. It's just basically all the actuators are in the hands, which is what Tesla did, 6 months ago. And then they realize, you'll hear him talk about it, that if you do that, all the actuators in the hand, it becomes big and bulky. It has less degrees of freedom. And you realize that you need to move the muscles into the forearm. And that's what they're doing. And that's why third generation of hardware revision is happening right now for Tesla. And it won't come out till the end of this year. We might get a sneak peek for it. Milo Kovac said in a couple of weeks. Let's listen in to what he's talking about the hands.
But so much of the intelligence of humans goes into what we do with our hands.
Yeah.
It's the manipulation of the world, manipulation of objects in the world, intelligent, safe manipulation of objects in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you start really thinking about your hand and how it works.
I do it all the time.
The sensory and control homunculus is, we have humongous hands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like your hands, the actuators, the muscles of your hand are almost overwhelmingly in your forearm.
Mm-hmm.
So your forearm has the muscles that actually control your hand. There's a few small muscles in the hand itself, but your hand is really like a skeleton meat puppet, and with cables so the muscles that control your fingers are in your forearm, and they go through the carpal tunnel, which is that you've got a little collection of bones and a tiny tunnel that these cables, the tendons, go through, and those tendons are mostly what moves your hands.
And something like those tendons has to be re-engineered into the Optimus in order to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like the current Optimus, we tried putting the actuators in the hand itself, but then you sort of end up having these like
giant hands.
Yeah, giant hands that look weird.
Yeah,
and then they don't actually have enough degrees of freedom or enough strength. Mm-hmm. So then you realize, okay, that's why you got to put the actuators in the forearm. And just like a human, you got to run cables through a narrow tunnel to operate the fingers. And there's also a reason for not having all the fingers the same length. So it wouldn't be expensive from an energy or evolutionary standpoint to have all your fingers be the same length. So why aren't they the same length?
Yeah, why not?
Because it's actually better to have different lengths. your dexterity is better if you've got fingers of different length. There are more things you can do, and your dexterity is actually better if your fingers are of different length. Like there's a reason we've got a little finger. Like why not have a little finger that's bigger?
Yeah,
because it allows you to do fine. It helps you with fine motor skills.
This little finger helps.
It does. If you lost your little finger, you'd have noticeably less dexterity.
So as you're figuring out this problem, you have to also figure out a way to do it so you can mass manufacture it, so as to be as simple as possible.
It's actually going to be quite complicated. The as possible part is it's quite a high bar. If you want to have a humanoid robot that can do things that a human can do, it's a very high bar. So our new arm has 22 degrees of freedom instead of 11, and has the actuators in the forearm. And these all the actuators are designed from scratch. From physics first principles. The sensors are all designed from scratch, and we'll continue to put a tremendous amount of engineering effort into improving the hand. Like the hand, by hand I mean like the entire forearm from elbow forward is really the hand. So that's incredibly difficult engineering, actually. And so the simplest possible version of a humanoid robot that can do even most, perhaps not all, of what a human can do is actually still.
All right, so this is the part that I love what you said. You taught us a lot, right? So it's everything that they're building for the humanoid bot is something that they'd have to build from scratch. They have to engineer it from scratch. The actuator was the big breakthrough. Other companies are trying to copy the actuator, but it's gone beyond just actuators. Actuators are the muscles that control the joints and so forth. Now we're talking about tendons and muscles in the hands that they need to build, create, engineer, and then they have to create at mass scale. Tesla has all that skill. He's talked about, reiterated how much difficult this is. This is a very difficult engineering problem. So how does other companies now who does not have manufacturing as their DNA, don't have the factories, they have to now, you can't just buy it off the shelf. You need to engineer it, rebuild it. This is the kind of things that only Tesla can do, it seems.
Yeah, and I hope they keep the commentary to a minimum in terms of what they're building here. I think they've actually said a lot. But yeah, Tesla is doing the sensor development, the actuator development, and the manufacturing, I believe, all are in parts. Again, they'll do this thing in the supply chain world or engineering world called make versus buy, where you kind of do a detailed analysis both of IP and of intellectual property and of your capability versus the external world's capability out there. And if you could find a cost structure that's better than what you could actually scale to, then you would put it on the outside. It looks like Tesla has not been able to find that. And I think this move of going from 11 to 22, this is a move where Elon and the management team sat down and said, well, what does this unlock from a capability perspective? What does this do to the total available market? What does this do to the viability of humanoid bots? Because you've got to make a decision to go to that more complex hand and forearm. It's going to cost you more money to do it. And the question is, what's going to be the value per dollar on the other side of that? And it looks like it's going to be quite compelling, based on the commitments that are made. And it also looks like we're on a journey right now. The journey they're on right now is this sensor development, is this actuator development, and then you've got to do the integration. Remember, it's not so much they're increasing, the actuator count, they're redesigning the actuators, and you've got to get this whole system working together, and not just working together in room temperature. They got to get it working together in extremes. So you've got a design, variable here. You've got an ability to manufacture variable here. You've got a big value per dollar variable that they've made a decision on. And now they want to take this whole system and bring it to scale. And I think they're just going to keep, just like they do with automobiles, they're always refining and they've always been refining the Model 3 and Model Y, for example. They'll keep a team on the humanoid and continue refining that, especially that forearm and hand. And yeah, we may get a version 1 that's released next year that's for the internal factories, but then that version 2 for larger production in 2026, we'll have some changes, and I think they'll just keep a rolling development effort going, where they just continue to improve it, knowing that both their manufacturing operation and their suppliers, that knowing that they're just going to increasing higher and higher scale. So they're going to have willing partners. They're going to want to support them. So yeah, this is exciting. This is why I think really Tesla's uniquely equipped to be able to do a product like this. They have the manufacturing capability on microelectronics from like their Starlink team, for example, and the antenna, and the small micro antennas from the Starlink team again. And they've got the metallurgy, between SpaceX and Tesla. They have the electromechanical engineering, again, mostly from Tesla, but also probably from SpaceX. So they really have a unique team that they can build and a unique set of experiences. And when you have the CEO that gives you kind of the mandate on first principles, on getting to, I'm certain he has a cost target on the team, but he's also got a capability and functionality target, performance target on the team as well. So I just think they're in the best position to be able to do this. And once we get beyond these 30-second demo clips on YouTube, and you can see this thing working in real time, I think it's going to be a very special thing.
Okay. So the other companies that seem to have focused on the hands is Sanctuary, Vancouver-based. They've been doing the hands. They've been talking about how important the hands are. Then you've got Figure. They just dropped theirs, and they look like that they've improved their hands. I don't know how many degrees of freedom that is, but they're still all very much the actuators and everything in the hand itself. So they've got to probably, at some point move to what Tesla's doing. So in addition to all that, you've got the hands. 50% of the engineering is the hands. Then you've got the brains, which of course you need superclusters. And so this is the part where you need to agree or disagree that you need a supercomputer. If you're a bot company, you need a supercomputer, because all that data that your bots are walking around in the home, in the factories, can be capturing not only vision, it's going to hear auditory, maybe in touch sensors, especially the hands here. Tesla's hands have sensors. And Tesla just announced, Elon just said, I just did a walkthrough, the Tesla supercompute cluster at Giga Texas. He's calling it the Cortex. This will be 100,000 H100s, A200s, with massive storage for video training of FSD and Optimus. So he just explained that they need massive storage, because once these bots are out there, they're capturing, and you need to train it, and you need to, teach it. This is how you do it. Is this big enough? And obviously it sounds like it's a good start.
Yeah, kind of pulling some of these stories together, that would be one reason that you would be having a meeting with the CEO of Samsung. They're a high bandwidth memory supplier that's used in these clusters. Micron's another one. SK Hynix is another one. SK Hynix is out of South Korea as well. So there's a reason that Elon's having these conversations, and you can pull all these stories together. And also just pull together the NVIDIA story we talked about earlier. Notice he says H100/200. They're fine taking both, as long as they can bring this capacity up. They're going to be fine on both. And they have a plan for both. They have a plan for probably max purchases on the 100, and once the 200's at scale, and they can get some, they'll gladly take those as well. So this is going to be a huge site, 100,000 of them running, and this is, I think, quite frankly, just the beginning, because this is Tesla using NVIDIA compute, and then Tesla's obviously working on their own compute capacity as well. But this is obviously a huge facility, training of vehicles and for the training of Optimus. And Tesla, I think people just need to step back and just remember, and a huge portion of the Giga site in Austin is this massive supercomputer called Cortex. And Tesla is an AI company. Look at the amount of compute that they've procured and bolted on to the factory for this training. And I think the rest of the market is going to wake up to this soon. And again, I go back to getting these edge devices out into the world. They have millions of vehicles out there already, and they're going to have millions of bots, over the next couple of years going out and being able to perform all this AI functionality. So they're going to be a leading player again as it moves from training and compute. As we move out of that phase and we move into the edge phase of inference and perception in the world, and you're going to see a lot of the AI compute happening at that phase of it, and Tesla's going to be a leader in it.
Tesla
They
is
are a leader in
apparently
it now.
they are the leader in inference compute, which is the compute that's sitting in the cars or now the bots. How quickly low compute, how quick that they process. I think Elon is saying they're faster than even Apple inference chips. Certainly faster than NVIDIA's, because that's not their focus. NVIDIA's always been on training in the data warehouses. And of course, Tesla's still working on Dojo, which we'll report shortly. But, there's a lot of comments recently, and you follow NVIDIA quite closely, that the hype bubble for AI is happening. And people are like, it's a bubble. So this guy, Bojan Tungas, says, the hype bubble is going to burst soon. And he's making fun of it, of course. Elon replied to him saying, the rate of increase of AI is mind-blowing. It's one thing to be, there's a hype bubble for LLMs or generative language, maybe even the generative video, because they don't have a business model for it. But it's impressive, but it's like, now what? We're watching to see $20 per month. You kind of like, remember when Microsoft said, we have 10,000 users? You're going, that's it? Paying $20 a month? That's not enough. But Elon and Tesla, this is real world AI. This is real world business models. Robotaxi and the bot are big, giant markets that they're actually applying AI to, not just, I don't know. I don't want to speak too soon. Maybe the LLMs will become your lawyer. They'll become your doctor and you'll pay them thousands of bucks. But right now, they're kind of stuck.
You're going to see huge leaps in functionality in all of these. But you're not, in terms of the devices that are moving throughout the real world. Tesla is going to be in a position. Again, I call it these high dollar, high margin devices, because you're going to have AI smartphones here coming. You're going to have AI PCs, and those are going to be, edge inference devices that are out in the real world, and they'll be out there in volume. But in terms of these high value, high dollar, high margin things that are doing, these tasks, Tesla is going to be in a unique position, with those products. And again, it's their own inference solution. It's their own silicon. It's their own software. They're not buying it from someone. They're not having to pay a royalty to someone for that. It's their own solution that they can purpose-built engineer for the bots, for the vehicles.
It's all coming together. It's all taking time, though. Eventually, we will see the fruits of this labor. Here you've got Dojo. So Tesla apparently confirmed that they're building a Dojo supercomputer in Buffalo, New York for $500 million. Serious enough about the project that Tesla is willing to double its rent for Giga New York if it fails to make its planned Dojo investments. What? I don't know what that means. They're willing to double its rent for Giga New York if it fails to make its planned Dojo investments. I don't know. So they signed a new agreement in Buffalo that extends the company's commitment to operate Giga New York for 5 more years until 2034, the possibility of a 10-year extension. It's also increasing its job commitment to the city by 340 positions. So they're investing $500 million in a Dojo supercomputer. 350 of it is being invested by the end of this year. And in the event that Tesla is unable to complete its planned Dojo supercomputer initiatives in the city, that's what it is. So if in case that doesn't happen, they're promising New York that they'll double their rent or something like that. Okay, something like that.
Yeah, so there's definitely gives on both sides of this deal. I'm assuming that the city of New York has provided breaks for Tesla, and Tesla then is saying, okay, look, we're so confident in this, we're willing to kind of put this up as part of the deal. So Elon's very confident. And again, if you listened in the last earnings call, there was a noticeable flip from Elon on Dojo. And again, I think it was beautiful from a supply chain perspective. A year ago, he needed the chips, and he basically had to pay whatever he had to pay to get them. And so he was silent on Dojo. In fact, he was negative on Dojo and said less than 10% chance of it happening. Great relationship with NVIDIA that continues. And now on, in this call, it's like, hey, look, the pricing's not coming down and the supply isn't necessarily in a good spot. So this is actually forcing me as, again, a device maker and a solution maker for my end consumers. If I don't have the chips and if I can't get them at the right price point, you're forcing me in the business to make this myself. And when you kind of arrive at that conclusion, it sets your relationship up in a different perspective of there's mutual respect. The two gentlemen, Jensen and Elon, definitely have great mutual respect for each other. And I think the relationship is very good. Tesla has their orders in for H100s, has their orders in for H200s. They should be fully, guaranteed. Anything could happen with Dojo in terms of its performance, but they definitely sent the message of, hey, we want better pricing. We want better availability on supply. That's called allocation. We want earlier allocation in the queue. And he's definitely sending that message by saying, hey, look, like I can't advance my business. I can't become profitable unless I get more supply and I get a better price point. So I think it was well managed. And this is where Dojo comes in. And I think Tesla is a lot more bullish on Dojo over the next couple of years.
Okay, good. So we just showed Elon himself talking about the great advantages or the difficult challenges that Elon and Tesla had to do to make the bot, to make the supercompute, the hands. These things all matter, all the video that's coming. And when you piece that all together, you go, okay, how do other competitors, how are they going to do this? So we'll see. Thank you so much, Jeff. Follow him on X, the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Herbert.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.